On exhaustion. That's kind of what I've been seeing here today. All right, Fox News correspondent Jillian Turner on Capitol Hill. Thank you so much, and stay with us. Stay close as we continue to kind of work through what's happening here on the Senate floor. We want to bring in Jim Trusty, a defense attorney and former assistant U.S. attorney, now to help us sort through the legalities of what we're watching. Hi, Jim.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. So can you just kind of walk us through what we've seen here in these last few hours and what is at hand?
Well, look, I think what's at hand is really one of the most fundamental decisions to be made, and that is this question about witnesses. And it sounds as if it's pretty much in the bag as they're taking account right now that the motion to start having witnesses and subpoena power is not going to carry. In other words, that at least 51 Republicans are going to stop that. So what happens next becomes really kind of crazy murky. Maybe we're going to go into a bunch of senatorial comments. Maybe we're going to have somewhat of a motion to dismiss on the front end. But it sounds like we'll have some combination of Senate observations, because it's not really closing arguments. And then again, going back to the two parties, the House managers and the the White House team, for more argument. And I think America prays that it's not going to be 24 hours each, but a lot of open questions about exactly how that gets hammered out behind the scenes by McConnell and Schumer.
And I was asking Jillian Turner there about the 45 minutes of haggling behind closed doors that we just heard about. And in terms of your experience, which you have a lot of in working through legal issues, what do you think was going on there?
Well, I think, probably some horse trading that we'll never hear about, right? But it's certainly, because this part is so unscripted, I think there's probably some really interesting conversations. My personal hope is that there's a separate kind of conversation about the second article of the impeachment. The second article, as Pat Philbin made the comment today, no witnesses can make a difference on that at this point. And I'd really like to see, just for the precedent of it, that second count dismissed outright before we even have further argument, because it really is kind of a chilling and I would say illegal article of impeachment to say resisting the House's process is in fact a crime, which is basically what that says. But again, who knows? I mean, we're not behind those closed doors. We're just going to have to wait and see a little bit.
Right. It is a long process as we continue to watch. It looks like the Senate will be standing in recess, subject to the call of the chair. We want to keep you close by. Jim Trusty, thank you very much for your perspective. And now talk to former U.S. Attorney Guy Lewis, who joins us to break down your perspective as well. Hi, Guy. It's good to see you.
Good. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so as we move into the evening hours, as we wrap up a long week and take a look at the road ahead, let's just talk about what you have witnessed and how you are perceiving what we have just seen take place.
Well, I tell you, the average American who's watching this has to think it's almost like making sausage. It's painful to watch. Look, almost everyone believes and knows how this case is going to end. And so it's difficult to sit here and to watch these delays unfold. I really do think the Republicans, the Republicans that are defending this case need to try to move this case forward and get this thing to a result.
What do you think in terms of looking ahead? You know, we've all been talking about what does this mean for the weekend? What does this mean for next week? And I guess we're not going to know right away, or maybe we'll know by tonight. In terms of timing, when you look at this, what do you think is going to happen?
So that's a great point, and I do think there's still a big question mark here. Look, on one side, the Democrats want to stretch this thing out. And there's a good reason why they want to stretch this thing out. Who knows what can happen? Who knows what other surprise witness, what other leak, what other document's going to all of a sudden pop up and give them an opportunity to say, hey, wait, we've got to basically reopen the proceedings. From the defense standpoint, the president's standpoint, he wants this thing to move to a verdict. I mean, let's get some finality here. Let's close this thing and let's get back to business. In terms of timing, great question. I think that's what the horse trade, a good analogy. I think that's what the intense discussion on the floor a little earlier between Senator Schumer and McConnell, they were going at it apparently for 10 or 15 minutes. Not going at it, but speaking very intensely, and then they moved off to talk to their respective sides.
I'm glad you brought that up, Guy. You know, as a former U.S. attorney, you have such great experience in this field. I want to ask you about, you know, without taking sides, just what you made of what we heard so far. If you could break down some of the highlights and some of the good points that you picked up on. There was obviously we've been listening for many hours now, but when you take a look at what we heard there on the floor, was there any big takeaways from either side?
Well, there were a couple of major points that both sides are making. One, the president's lawyers are continuing to hammer the theme that there was no crime, that the charges are constitutionally invalid. And indeed, if that's the case, frankly, a motion to dismiss. If I was in real court, having tried a lot of cases, then I would say, Judge, the charging document itself is defective. Move to dismiss, and frankly, the judge would probably grant it. From the other side, the Democrats are saying, look, process matters. Well, they're saying it now in the Senate. Process matters. We need to have witnesses. We need to have documents. There are real issues, substantial issues out there that you need to hear before you make a final judgment as the jury in this case. So it's a give and take, and frankly, the reality is 2/3. I mean, that's the real issue here. 2/3. You got to have 2/3, and the framers did that, of course, so there wouldn't be a partisan impeachment, which you know, I don't. However you slice it,
right?
This is a partisan impeachment.
Well, it's good perspective that you bring to us, Guy Lewis, former U.S. attorney. Thank you so much for your perspective. Also, our thanks to Jim Trusty and Jillian Turner. Once again, the Senate deciding by a 51-49 vote against allowing witnesses to testify in the impeachment trial. This is a big one we've been waiting for. This does not bring the trial to an end. That could happen sometime next week. We will return you to your local programming. I'm Laura Ingle in New York.
This has been a Fox News special presentation.